Give us this day our daily bread. Noel and I think Ellen confessed to being lefty, cafe latte, Saturday morning people. So this is a Saturday morning poem. Give us this day our daily bread. When you walk into the bakery on Saturday morning and see the shelves of cobs and ciabatta and high tins and pipe loaves, in multigrain and wholemeal and rye and rice swirl and white, it is not hard to believe that this bread began in a sun-drenched, windswept, changing paddock. It is easy to picture the harvester moving through the crop, gathering seed heads into its great metal hold, to see the brimming trucks lining up the storage bins beside the railway sidings. Sometimes a man suffocates in a silage of grain. On Saturday morning, the smell of freshly baked bread fills the bakery. Those doing breakfast chatter and clatter between the spread of coffee and newspapers and the smells of raisin toast, croissants, brick muffins and solid slices of sourdough layered with eggs, tomatoes, bits of bacon and spinach drooling with hollandaise sauce. It is easy to forget that the last bread to go from the shop will be gathered into plastic bags by charity workers and given to families who have never eaten at a bakery. The bakery on late Saturday morning fills with tribes, netballers, soccer players, Auskit recruits who wear mud like brand names, call out orders like victory chants. When they huddle to squeeze tomato sauce onto their steaming meat pies, they do not notice the man in the beanie and scarf who will take his pie home to his bedsit to watch the footy. When the tribes spill onto the footpath, they do not see the woman shuffling into the space they have created. She moves to the counter and counts out the coins to buy a small cob. Later, she will sit in her garden and eat her half slowly and scatter the rest to the birds. It's lovely to have people here associated with the gallery. The gallery is one of the things that draws me to Castlemaine constantly. And I was lucky enough to be part of a group of people who painted wrote ekphrastic poems, so writing poems from the paintings. And Ken read you one, which was actually a photo from Mostyn Street, but I'm going to read you another one. I think lots of my poems are about obsession. The painting that has absolutely obsessed me is Wolfhagen Vista. And if you haven't seen it, go in there and sit in front of it. I have spent a great portion of my life sitting there, just marveling at it. So this poem is after the painting Southern Vista 1 by Philip Wolfhagen. Give me a painting that takes me from that moment when the knife whips and whisks at the blob squeezed out onto the wooden table, when beeswax crumbles into the paint, blending colour and texture and possibility. Let me place my hand on the hand that holds the knife as it slathers this mixture onto the white linen. Let me move this ooze of colour across the stark canvas, push the brush as it massages and layers and feathers the waxy oils. Into this swell of colour, let me bring the bite and quiet of a night almost gone, the hour before the light takes hold, when the damp hangs in the air, when cold rips in on itself, and the morning struggles to get a grip. And if I can't do this, let my poems then be brave and messy, full of wild words and surprising images. Let my readers feel ink driven into the page, and in the gravity of afternoon readings, hear words that dance in their hearts and buffer their souls. Ken asked me what the Estonian connection was, because in the centre of my book, I like to think of it as the heart of my book, I 3 poems, a sequence that I'm writing a much longer sequence, but there are 3 poems in the book, about Estonia, and it's another of my obsessions. I've met these people through the funeral industry, so I was asked to create funerals for them. And I was fascinated by the story of these old people, so people in their late 80s, who had left Estonia as children and physically, literally walked out of Estonia and across through Germany and up into Scandinavia, where they eventually escaped. And the stories, I thought, were wonderful in themselves, but because I had to research to be able to do the funerals, I became absolutely enchanted with the story of Estonia itself and how, although there have been such terrible atrocities committed there by imperial forces from various countries, the people had really held on to their dancing and their music and their songs. And one of the most wonderful images, I think, was the image of the people from the 3 Balkan countries joining hand in hand. So there was literally a line of people along these countries, and this was their like passive resistance. They resisted through music. So I'm going to read you one of those poems, and I was interested in how they kept the songs alive. So there's a poem about that, and there's a poem about some people escaping. But the last poem is called The Singing Revolution, and that took place in Tallinn in 1988. The voices quietened but did not still. When people disappeared, families slammed their grief indoors. They gathered in their villages and threaded songs into their children's memories. Tanks and soldiers scoured the city streets. Foreign flags fluttered in the squares. Late in the century, the town hall full to capacity, an ordinary band, an orderly crowd, until one more tries to enter. Out they spill, 15,000 walking through the streets to the open field of Laulapidu, sending the word to gather at the festival grounds. In they come from the coasts and the cities and the towns, lighting the bright night of June with music, hundreds of thousands unfurling forbidden songs, and in the margins Russian tanks stilled, except on each a pair of darting eyes. Into this rides a young Estonian on his motorbike, holding high the blue and black and white. As if on cue 1,000 flags unfurl, fluttering away decades of dust, a sky of waving arms and flags and rising voices, holding this country in the